the weight loss and diet industry is like this industry that is founded on making us well. And it's doing anything but. Like, it's so rooted in fat phobia and anti-fat bias. And I think anyone, once you kind of make physical fitness and working out regularly a part of your life, like, it makes you feel good in your body. It takes the focus off of what you think your body looks like and puts it on what you can do in your body.
Hi, guys, and welcome back to the Thick Thighs Save Lives podcast. Today, I am joined with head coach and creator of the Badass Lady Gang. BALG is about enjoying life with a side of running. Kelly's philosophy measures success by confidence gained, not pounds lost. So she fits right in with the TTSL podcast. If you aren't having fun, it's time to pivot. Kelly is an RRCA certified coach and has completed Dr. Stacy Sims' Women Are Not Small Men certification course, helping coaches better serve female athletes. Over the years, Kelly has coached thousands of women, from brand new runners to those chasing Boston Marathon qualifying times. Kelly has appeared on the cover of Women's Running magazine, joined by Nike at the Women's World Cup, and created a worldwide body acceptance movement called the Sports Bra Squad. We are so excited to have Kelly on. She's a pioneer in the space, not only for runners, but on to talk to us about body image and how we might even enjoy running. So I know you guys are going to love this podcast. I had a really fun discussion with her. So enjoy. Kelly, welcome to the Thick Thighs Save Lives podcast. We are so happy to have you.
Thanks for having me. How are you?
I'm good. I'm excited to have you on. You are an absolute boss.
I'm appreciative for you guys being so flexible. It's January, and the fitness industry is January is it's a marathon. It's like an Ironman.
It is. It starts our marathon, and then we're like, oh, this is going to keep going. We're going to maintain this energy
the whole year. It just never
the
stops.
whole year. Till the next one. And you are just an absolute lady boss. And she's the creator of Badass Lady Gang, which is one of the things that I was drawn to immediately, because I was like, these are my people. Badass Lady Gang, I immediately know, like, this is it.
Thanks. I'm in the running world, and the running world takes itself very, very seriously.
Yes.
And it's very like everyone's so into being fast or chasing huge outcomes. And once like you start running, you kind of realize it's so community focused, but then it can be difficult to find a community to belong to if you're not within a certain pace range. So we wanted to figure out, like, how do we crack this nut and take the pressure of like running marathons out of the picture? I mean, great if you want to run a marathon, but like, how do we make running something that is always fun? Which I feel like for most people, like, fun and running is like two words that are just like so juxtaposed to each other. Mm-hmm. How do we make it like fun first, friendship second, and then like doing badass shit third?
Yes. I am so into that. So with that intro, will you just let our listeners know like how you got started and like how you found your passion with running and what led you to wanting to share your message with so many women everywhere?
It was kind of a snowball. Like, I always say that I'm like the former president of the I effing hate running club. Like, was never athletic, did not play sports. I was a theater kid, genuinely hated working out, and then was just desperate enough to start running after I graduated from college. I got my undergraduate degree in theater and kind of looked around as I was graduating and was like, oh no, wait a minute. All those things that my professors have been telling me for the past 4 years, being like, no one makes a living doing this. They weren't kidding. And I kind of like in that moment heard them for the first time and just panicked. So I moved home, and I was really struggling with grief. My younger brother had passed away when I was in college, and I had used going to the gym and my theater community as kind of like outlets to avoid doing my work with my grief. It really like filled the hole and just kept me busy. And I like no longer had either of those things. So running stepped in to be like, I'll take their place. Keep running from your problems. And so I started running, and it was awful and it was hard, and I did it by myself, but I didn't really have any friends because I moved into my parents' house, and it was just a way to stay busy. But then I ran a half marathon, and then I ran a marathon. And after I ran the marathon, I was kind of like, if I can run a marathon, like there probably genuinely isn't much I can't do. What I think it's time for me to like start looking in the mirror and saying, like, what are all these things that I'm telling myself, like, you can't do this? So I decided, like, I'm just going to move to New York. I'll figure it out. So I moved to New York, and then very quickly went viral. I went viral for taking selfies with hot guys behind me while I ran a half marathon. And this was in 2014. And everyone around me was like, start a blog, start a blog, start a blog. And I was kind of like, no, I'd spent my whole life kind of like building walls and being very protective of my narrative and what people knew about me. And I had worked very hard at like what people knew about me and how people perceived me. So this like be an open book exercise was like immediately no. No, like the scariest thing in the world. So like I slowly started, I was like Shrek, like layers of an onion, like slowly
Mhm.
started peeling them away. And I made a lot of funny content. The running world at that time was not funny at all. And this was also like early Instagram, like we couldn't post videos on Instagram.
Yeah.
Like we had like
Just
8
pictures.
filters. Yeah. So I was one of the first like running influencers. And very quickly I realized like I wasn't alone in there's this term normative discontent. Normative discontent is a word that like it describes that women and girls feel uncomfortable in their bodies and the way they look all the time. And I thought I was the only one. Of course, the world revolves around me. And as I started opening up, I realized like, no, this is everyone. Every girl feels this way. And in running specifically, so many people feel like they don't belong because they don't have a quote unquote runner's body, or maybe they're not fast, or maybe they don't run distance, like they're not marathoners. So this community just kind of like organically formed. And then we started calling ourselves the Badass Lady Gang because it was like so all the words kind of like contradicted each other. Like the running
Mhm.
industry would not call us badass. We were a bunch of like slow runners who cried on street corners because it was so hard and it never got easier. And lady because like we're the furthest thing from ladies, we're gross and like silly and loud as all hell. So like it kind of stuck, and then it snowballed into this big thing. I became a running coach, and we really wanted to create a community that was based in working on mental game and connection because I had all these great running coaches and I started chasing big outcome goals. Like I tried to qualify for the Boston Marathon, which is kind of like the everyday runner's Olympics, and you have to run really, really fast. And as I was doing that, like all my shit came up, like all the things I had told myself about, like, you're not a serious athlete, you could never do these things. And it was this beautiful exercise in like, why do we stand in our own way? And like over time, I just realized like all the little parts of the running world that I really didn't love. And through that, like, that's kind of how we created our business. Like, how do we fill the holes of what's missing? How do we make sure that people chase big, giant goals, but at the same time take big breaks? Or learn how to like let what intrinsically motivates them guide the way and not what they think they should be doing. So, like, we're trying to leave space for both. And it snowballed into this like really amazing online community, but we're also in 9 cities in the US and Canada.
Wow. First of all, that story is incredible. And just thank you for stepping out of your comfort zone with like, I know you were a person who didn't want to share initially and felt very protective of your life. But we're so lucky that you did because you've helped so many people along the way just by sharing your journey and being brave enough to share it. And I think we don't give credit to that enough with like people who do open up and how hard that can be for a lot of us and how uncomfortable it can be. And it seems like when you see it on the internet, you're like, that's flawless. That's so easy for them to share. And it's like, no, none of that was easy. Like sometimes you sit there before a post and you're like, I don't know. Like I used to sit for like literally like my drafts would be so full and I would just be standing there for like hours before I'd post something, like rereading it and being like, that sounds stupid. I don't know about that. Or like just I'll maybe later. Like I don't have the guts yet. And like we're just so lucky that people like you have been brave enough to not only share, but then create an entire community around that. Like Thank you.
That's so sweet. It's been a weird ride. It's been weird, like in the sense that obviously I'm not the first person in the world to share a story. We've had books forever. Blogs were a thing when I started, but I feel like being a part of this like wave of social media people, even though like I am not a millions of followers kind of a person, like I am a very niche, small community kind of a person. And it's so hard to figure out like the pendulum swings of like learning how to open up, but then like learning how to protect yourself and realize like you're not an open book. You can be really strategic about what you share. So it's like both. Sometimes I feel protective of like newer people who are coming up when I'm watching them
Yes.
just kind of like share everything. And I'm like, you don't have to. You don't owe anyone anything.
Mhm.
One, but two, like it's important. Like it is important to share things because that's kind of how we like find each other and find our people and see ourselves through other people. It's just been like the weirdest journey,
Yeah.
like especially because it's been so long. It feels like it's been 2 years, but it's like really, it's almost been a decade.
Yeah, it's weird how that works out.
I'm getting
Especially in
old.
the running community though too, because like there's so much that goes around like who can be a runner. I mean, I guess
Yeah.
in a lot of fitness spaces, like
Yeah.
who can be a CrossFitter, who can be a runner. It's like all of these things, and like there is no criteria to calling yourself a runner other than I am running. I'm a person and I am running, so I am a runner.
Yeah. I like once you kind of get into the world, you think that everybody is just like constantly running 5Ks and marathons and half marathons. And I've been in plenty of meetings and like big giant companies watching their decks with all their research, and like the like average person, the majority of people who run will never run an organized race, and they only run for like 20 to 30 minutes 2 to 3 times a week. And you would never guess that because your favorite personalities online, or like once you get into it, running races is just fun. It's just like a fun piece of the puzzle. But like I know growing up, the only person I knew who was a runner was my aunt, and that was her. She had never ran an organized race in her life, but she runs 3 to 4 times a week just because it makes her feel good. So it's funny to like you never get a sense of what's it's really like for most people once you kind of get
Mm,
going. You just kind of like drink the Kool-Aid and think you need to be doing all this epic when in reality, like just going for a 30-minute run is pretty epic. Like taking care of yourself when you can is epic because it's hard.
yeah. It's hard. It's hard to fit it into your normal life. It's not all like David Goggins out there. Sometimes I'm like, it's weird because like that's what you do build that up. You're like, well, if I'm a runner, like I have to join a race or I have to be this and that. And it's like, whoa, let's back it up for a second. Like making time during your really busy week when like you're not a professional athlete and like you have a job and like a family maybe or like a life, and it's just like making time for that is really epic. Like great job.
Yeah.
I do want to talk to you about, so like so many women have been introduced to running as a means to an end, like to burn calories. And it's just like that necessary evil that you have to do if you want to be healthy or fit or lose weight, or like it's just like that thing that you have to do. You've been able to help so many women flip the script on that and redefine what running means to them. Can you talk about that for a minute? How'd you do that?
By making a lot of mistakes. Like the
Yeah.
first couple of years of my blog, we call it poison punch. Like the poison punch that the weight loss and diet industry serves. We're all drunk on it. There's this scene, this is such a stretch, so like stay with me. There's this scene in The Sixth Sense, that movie
Mhm.
with Bruce Willis, this horror movie by M. Night Shyamalan, where ironically Misha Barton's character, she's like a child actor in this movie, but her mother is like slowly killing her, which I know this is so more. Stay with me. She's putting pine salt in her soup and no one can figure out why she's sick. And it's like such a perfect analogy for like what's happening to all of us. The weight loss and diet industry is like this industry that is founded on making us well, and it's doing anything but. Like it's so rooted in fat phobia and anti-fat bias. And I think anyone, once you kind of make physical fitness and working out regularly a part of your daily routine, or not even daily routine, because oftentimes that's not very healthy for most people. There's not enough time. You're like sacrificing sleep and blah, 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 blah. But when it just becomes a part of your life, you're working out 2 to 3 times a week, things like that. It has nothing to do with weight loss. It's just because it's like it makes you feel good in your body. It takes the focus off of what you think your body looks like and puts it on what you can do in your body. It gives you mental clarity. It gives you a way to brainstorm. It gives you a way to fight loneliness. Like, right, like we're in this incredible lonely epidemic right now. Loneliness is so dangerous. They're saying it's more catastrophic for your health than smoking a pack of cigarettes a day, loneliness. And when anyone starts working out, you very quickly find a community, whether you're doing boutique classes, whether you're lifting, whether you're going to CrossFit, whether you're running, right? It's just a way to make friends. And as an adult, it is really hard to make friends. And it just like is an immediate community. So for us, like my first few years as a blogger, I talked all about my weight loss because I was working out like a maniac when I was in college. I gained weight after my brother passed away, and everyone told me they were worried about me and la, 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 la. And then I started working out like a maniac. I started going to the gym twice a day for like 60 to 90 minutes each, which is not healthy. I I I started being, I just so much disordered habits started popping up. I struggled with bulimia, and all around me, everyone, you look so great. I'm so proud of you. Oh my gosh, look how healthy you are. All this stuff. But I was anything but. But no one would know that because you can't tell how healthy someone is by looking at them. You just genuinely can't. No one knew what I was struggling with because I was a very good actor, you know? And running quickly took that place. I started running myself into the ground because it was such a good way to avoid all the shit that was coming up for me. And it wasn't until I launched this body image empowerment movement called the Sports Bra Squad that was rooted in like genuine goodness that I realized that like I needed to do my work. I couldn't just shed my shirt and like face my fears of running in a sports bra. I needed to deal with my shit. And it took forever to start to deal with it. Why I didn't think I belonged, why I didn't think I looked like a real runner, why I was so afraid to gain weight, like all this stuff. And it wasn't until really the pandemic, the end of 2019, I was like, I'm so unwell. I'm using marathoning and running fast to like hide from so many things. Next year, I'm going to get back into therapy. I'm going to do my work. I'm not going to run races. And then the pandemic happened, and I'm like, oh, yes, all the pressures are gone. Like everyone has to do this work with me. This is so great. And I think that was the big turning point for us. I think the messaging was always there. I was always trying to like swim upriver and like figure out how do we make this a place that isn't about weight loss, because I don't think we've ever been about weight loss, but I definitely was drunk on poison punch those early years. And then I spent like 3 to 4 years trying to quit. And now I'm like my glasses are off and I am like, flamethrower to the diet industry. I'm just like, how do we make sure that women are working out for the right reasons?
I just love that. And I love the work that you're doing because like it's not like I get so choked up about it because it's not popular in the space. And like when Rachel and I started, like we started like our first or second episode of the podcast was called Fuck the Scale. Yeah. And we were like, we're going to enter a health and fitness space by telling people to stop weighing themselves. And it was just like so anti. And we were like, is anyone going to listen to this? Like, is anyone going to be able, because I love the analogy that you used with the sixth sense. And I know exactly what you're talking about because it is slowly killing us. Like, I don't think it's a reach because it genuinely is slowly killing us. It's distorting our view of our bodies. It's distorting our view of society. It's distorting our view of how we should be in society, how we should act, how we should carry ourselves. It is just everything. And it's how we operate on a daily basis, where we deserve to be, how we walk into a room, how we interact with others, what we consider other people to be healthy or not healthy based on their body size. And it is catastrophic to our health. And that is the weirdest thing because it's all based around health. And I'm like, this is so, once you really take your glasses off with that, it really is so ass backwards. And it's so important to attack it, I feel,
Yeah.
to attack it really head on and to deal with some of the things that we can recognize that it is affecting. And it's one of those things that doesn't happen in a day. It is not going, like, you don't just like wake up and you're like, I'm totally healed with my body image and I can just see the worth in my body and like all these things. Like it just doesn't happen like that. But it is a ton of work from the inside out of being able to reframe some of those things, and even to rethink, like, when you get that positive feedback for something like weight loss and you weren't in a healthy place, it's important that we don't pass that forward
Yeah.
when we see someone else doing the same thing, right? Like it's still like a knee-jerk reaction that, like, if you see someone who is looking like they are prioritizing their health, but really they're just like focusing on some weight loss, they're hitting the gym, and like we're conditioned to want to congratulate them for that, regardless of what we know they're going through.
Yeah. It's so frustrating. It's so frustrating. Mainly because I remember what it was like, just how hard it was to go from like 20 minutes sitting on a bike to 60 minutes sitting on a bike. And what the feedback I was just looking for was like, you look really happy. Like that's all I needed. You like you just have so much, you like there's a spark inside of you that's been missing. Not like, oh my gosh, you look great. Because every time I heard you look great, I used to judge you for being fat. Like it just confirmed all the things that I had. And it's fascinating because I probably weigh more today than I did when, like, after my brother passed away. But I wasn't working out regularly when in that time. So I just like all the shit that fat phobia, like makes you think about yourself, that like you're lazy, all this stuff. Like I believed it because I wasn't working out. But now, like, I work out 6 days a week. I lift regularly. I ran a marathon last year. Like I do all the things. So I'm like, now I have very clear proof that you can be fat and incredibly healthy. My heart rate's really
Yes.
low. My blood pressure's great. My cholesterol's really great. I do all the blood tests. And it's just like, oh, I thought that when I lost all that weight, I was in the best shape of my life, but I wasn't. I'm now today, like body, mind, and spirit, in the best shape of my life. And it's been such a to get here.
It's been such a to get here, but so worth it. And like to just say body, mind, and spirit, because that is actually health. Like we are
Yeah.
not just in, like, your health markers, of course, are very important, and you cannot at any point see that from the outside, but like how you are feeling is important to health. And like if we're not using that as any kind of judge, like what are we even talking about?
Right.
Like,
It's just so frustrating. The world convinces you that like all of these things are problems, and they have a million products to sell you to fix all the things. And you're just like constantly like, the world tells you this is a problem, this is a problem, this is a problem. So of course you're like, oh my God, I want to be healthy. Like, help me fix this. And all the shit is just like, you're just spinning. It's just like constant spinning. And it just sucks that the thing that works is therapy. Like that's the
you
only
know,
thing that works. That's
yeah.
all you need.
Is like doing the work, though, is like
Yeah.
not just going through it, like just doing the work and sitting with some of those questions that you might ask yourself, like, why do I feel the need to maintain a smaller body, or
Yeah.
like, why do I feel that my worth means more when I look a certain way? Like it's some of those really hard questions that we have to sit with and ask ourselves. And I think the pandemic was and it was many things, but it was really good for that, for a lot of people, and opened up, the ability for some people to be able to find you as well. And I
Yeah.
do want to jump into that for a little bit too, because like over the years, you've worked with runners of all ages, ability levels, and from many different backgrounds. What would you say is the most common thing for many of your athletes to unlearn before they can find freedom through movement?
What it means to be strong. Like
Yeah.
really truly understanding what it means to be strong and defining expectations for themselves. That's the hardest thing. Like I'm a firm believer that literally anyone can run a marathon. Like it really isn't as hard as we think it is. it's 1000% as scary as you think it is. Like genuine terror. It's so scary. But like it's just like same with a 5K, same with starting running, same with lifting, same with anything else. It's just a frog in a pot. Like you get started and like the heat slowly turns up to a point where you don't realize it's boiling. That's how the training works. It slowly progresses. The hardest thing is finding the time. Like it's just so much work. It's just so much, like I always tell anyone, people are like, I want to run a marathon. And I'm like, that's fabulous. But don't run a marathon unless you feel compelled to run a marathon. It's just a distance. The mile is amazing. A 5K is amazing. A half marathon's amazing. Like everything's badass. What all that really matters is that there's something inside of you driving you forward, right? You can't just be extrinsically motivated. Well, I want to put a sticker on my car, or I want a medal. Like those things are fine and great, but like they're not going to last. So like the hardest thing for me is to get people to not just say like, why are you here? But like, why do you want to stay here? Why do you want to keep doing this? Like what's actually driving you? Because 9 times out of 10, it's weight loss and no one wants to say it out loud because they know that like we're anti-diet. Yep. And it's like, no, you got to work through that shit. You got to talk about it, right? Like for everybody who says I want to lose weight, some people may genuinely want to lose weight. And I'm not here to tell you weight loss is bad. I'm here to say, great. What would happen though if we put that aside and instead focus on a bunch of other outcomes and also tied a bunch of process things to that? What are the feelings you want to feel? More energetic, more alive, more excited, more connected to people. Like there's so many other things that are just so much better long term and will make you honestly just like it makes it easier to get out of bed in the morning to show up, because that's very hard, right? Like I ran 11 marathons and I can honestly say like sometimes I don't want to work out. I didn't work out yesterday. I was like, I can't. I had jury duty. I'm like, no, I'm actually just gonna have a glass of wine and have some Cheerio treats. Like I'm done. That's fine. But like today I was like, okay, I have a really long day. I'm gonna get up early and like just make it happen. I didn't want to, but I just did it, like that's the hardest thing. So for everybody, it's just like, we need to define what are the feelings you're chasing. That will motivate you long term. The weight loss, maybe it'll happen, maybe it won't, but guess what? Throughout your life, you're going to gain weight. You're going to lose weight. It's just a part of life. What matters more is that like you understand what it means to be healthy and well, and it's not weight loss.
Yeah. A lot of times too, like, for people who do, they know they will be healthier when they lose some weight. I always try and say like, that might be a byproduct of some of the things we put in place, but it will be just that. It will be something that happens at the same time as we're working on some of the important things, like some of the really important things, like having more energy, getting better sleep, like having a limitless life, like being able to go through your day without feeling some restrictions or tiredness, and, some of the things that you don't want to experience in your everyday life. And I think, I'm not particularly a runner, although I run sometimes, but I think it's a very interesting thing when you set a goal of, a marathon or a 5K, because at the end of the day, like there is that, like if you set it for the medal or the goal or the accolades, and you miss the process along the way, you'll be very disappointed at the end.
Yeah.
So like warning for that, whenever you set one of those, like pay attention along the way, what it's actually giving back to you. And that doesn't mean you're going to not have hard days. Like you absolutely are. And I'm glad you brought up that, like, you didn't feel motivated and you didn't work out or you didn't go for a run. Like the people, guys, the people that you think are the most motivated on the planet and like never miss a day, like we miss days. 100%.
All the time. I'm just in a position now where I'm like, I'm not beating myself up, or I'm not like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. I'm just like, I made the right choice for me. And I don't give 2 F's about that thing that I told myself I had to do.
Yeah.
I'll do it tomorrow.
That comes with time, but you just got to like be okay with it. Like you got to be like, I'm taking a rest day because that's what I feel. That might not even be like, sometimes I do this thing where I'm like, I'm taking a rest day. And then I check in, I'm like, you're not that sore. And I'm like, mentally, I'm tired.
Yeah.
And that means I need a rest day. Like, I don't care.
I always tell everybody to like a good barometer to start to get in, like move in that direction, because it's very hard in the beginning, is like ask yourself, do I want to? If the answer is a resounding no, don't do it. Even if like you've missed all the days and you're in that position where you're like, I don't think I'm going to be ready on race day. It's like, if you don't want to do it, why are you forcing yourself to do something? Go do something else. Maybe the goal isn't it. Maybe that goal is not, like, I'm not a believer. We're not children. We don't need to prove to ourselves that we can see something through. If like that North Star goes away, if you don't want to do the thing that you're pursuing, like, we need to pivot, right? Like, that's not quitting. That's listening to yourself when you don't want to do something. Life's hard enough. We got to do
Because
all
you
sorts
are
of
a
shit we don't
grown,
want to do. Yes.
yeah, like you are a grown adult. You know what you want to do.
Yes.
And it's okay to pivot. Like you're not a failure, but we're conditioned, along with the diet industry. They want us to not trust ourselves. So if we
Yeah.
feel something
Yes.
intuitively and we say like, well, I feel like this isn't a part of my journey anymore. And it's like, well, you just must not have the right motivation, or you just must not know. And women specifically are very much conditioned to not trust how they feel. Everything in society is designed to make women mistrust their own feelings.
Yeah.
And so they don't act on it. And it's like, no. You are the only person who actually knows what's right for you.
Yeah. I always just cringe or like let out an audible groan whenever I see people being like, is it can't or don't want to? Is it can't or won't? And I'm like, it's won't and don't want to sometimes. Like, and that's okay.
And that's
My
okay.
God. Why are we like this?
Why are we like this?
Why are we like
So much pressure already.
My God, like, I'm already here. I am here already. Like, why are you yelling at me? Leave me
No,
alone.
I know. I do want to ask you too. You talk a lot about in your coaching about people need to define the person they want to be as part of their running journey. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, it kind of comes to like habits. We rarely look at the habits we have or the habits that we want to adopt in terms of like, what's the person that we're working towards, right? And it doesn't need to be some monumental shift where like sometimes, like, I remember when I first got started, I had this core belief that I was a quitter, mainly because like the diet industry made me think I was this lazy piece of shit. And I wasn't a quitter. I graduated from college. I graduated from high school. Like, I had a job. Like, I was doing all these things, but in terms of fitness, because I was never able to lose weight and keep it off, I thought I was a quitter. I thought all the things. So when I
Not
started
that the
running,
systems were broken.
right?
Must
No, it
be
was
you.
totally me. It was me. Totally. Exactly.
You and like
Exactly.
90% of people.
Totally. And it like wasn't until I started to define, okay, well, what's a runner? A runner is someone who runs. And then like I do this exercise with all my athletes, and then like they all say the same thing. They all believe that. And then we start doing okay, let's open up about like, what do you do when someone asks you about your marathon or the fact that you're a runner? The but ... come out and everyone starts qualifying. Well, I'm not very fast. Well, like, I walked a lot. All this shit starts coming up and it's like, okay, those two things are in complete juxtaposition of themselves. You can't say if you run, you're a runner and then put a but ... right? Like, that can't exist. We need to figure out, who are you? What do you believe to be true about yourself? And who's the person that you're working to become, right? Like, for me, the person I'm working to become is like a more patient person, a more kind person to myself. I'm incredibly kind to most people. I can like hear my boyfriend like rolling his eyes right now and like other things, but like those are the things I'm working towards. Like, they don't really have anything to do with fitness. Fitness just helps me stay on that track, right? Like, on days where I'm having a really bad day, a run, a ride, a lifting session, like, help me blow off steam. It doesn't fix what happened, which is what I was doing for a long time. It was just helping me ignore and like shut my brain down. But it does help me like find space, put curiosity goggles on, and ask myself, like, why did I feel the way I felt? Why did I behave the way that I felt? Why did I make the decisions I made in that moment? Things like that. It just gives me space. Like, it helps me just clear my head so that I can investigate and dig deeper. Like, I think that's the work that we're constantly doing, which is hard because there's never going to be a result, right? You're never done.
No, but it's almost like it's the downside, but it's also the beauty of it, because like you're never done. I always hear people, like, especially around this time of year, we hit January, and
Oh
people
God.
come like,
Yeah.
I'm falling off the wagon. Or 3 weeks in, it's like I fell off the wagon and it ran me over, and it's like I have to get started again. You're always getting started because like this is never ending.
Yeah. Totally. Totally. I'm like, what do you mean by restart? What does that mean? You never finished, right? The
You're
end of
never
one thing
finished.
is the beginning of something else. You're just always in it. Always.
Yeah, like this work is ongoing.
Yeah. Which is
It's
like
the
the
beauty
biggest
though, because
lie.
you're always like ready. It's always going to be this ongoing process. There's never this like, oh, I finally made it. Like I've totally become like, okay with my body, and like my mental health is great, or like whatever. You can come to a place where you're like, I feel much better about this. But do I still have days where I tie things like my worth to my athletic performance, or do I tie my worth to how well I'm doing in my job, or things like that, where are very singular looking, where it's like, have I shifted some of my focus to different areas of my life in hopes to improve them? That means that other areas will drop.
Yeah.
So that's okay, right? Like that's all good.
Yeah. I feel like so much of what we do is getting people to address what like the work that they want to be doing with the work that they're capable of doing right now. Though like getting those two on the same playing level. Like if you're burnt out and struggling and caretaking and doing all this shit, 4 days a week or 5 days a week is not realistic. It's a great moonshot. Like strive for it. But like let's start with 2 days. Can you make 2 days happen? Can you commit to 2 10-minute things? And if you go over and above, fantastic. But at least you're not going to walk away being like, I can't have it all. And it's like, no,
No, none of us can.
there are times in your life where you're going to have more time to dedicate to a
Yes.
goal. And there are times in your life where it's going to just be really hard to get 2 days in. You got to roll with the punches, and you just have to be realistic about where you are and what you want.
Yeah, what season you're in. That is absolutely amazing. I wish we had all day to talk about this, but I do want to let our listeners know where they can hear more from you, because they need to follow you on Instagram and just like get more of these people in your space, so you're exposed to this type of messaging. So where can our listeners hear more from you?
I am all across the board. Kelly, KK Roberts, Kelly with a Y. And then Badass Lady Gang is my community. You can find us at badassladygang.com or all over socials at Badass Lady Gang.
Amazing. Guys, don't forget to check her out.
Thank you.
She's an absolute rock star. And I always tell people this too, because like when it comes to what we are consuming on social media, like we need to be consuming things that align with our values and things that, we want to hear. And that's you. So thank you so much for coming on with us today.
Thank you for having me. This was so fun.